here it is, my friends. Everyone's been asking me when and where, and here we are. One of my idols, and I will share the story in a little bit on why. He probably doesn't remember he told me this, but Coach Mike Mullins from the Illinois Wolves, director and founder, the head guy in charge, is joining us today. Coach, thank you. I appreciate you.
Good morning and afternoon to those in all time zones that are on this fashionable, international, and growing domestic podcast.
Thank you. That's awesome. Thank you so much. Um, First thing I want to say why I idolize you, and you don't remember this. Um, so we did meet years ago at Jason's Deli, which I want to tell you was awful. It was awful food. Um, but the company was great. And I remember asking you, why you started Wolves. And you said something that I never forgot. You said, me and my friends don't golf. This is our hobby.
Yep.
And I don't golf either. And this is my hobby. And it kind of turned into that. And that always stuck with me because, yes, it's your hobby, and a lot of people have hobbies, but you do it at such a high level and you take so much pride in your product. And I've always kind of looked up to you because of that. Um, a lot of people, do it for a living or whatnot, but when you said that you and your friends do it for a hobby, that was big time for me. So thank you. I want to get started. So you started the Wolves in '99. Tell me about that.
Yep. Well, I was invited to the Midwest Wolves in 1998 by Tom Mykrit
Okay.
and Ken Rice, who had primarily a DuPage sixth grade all star team that they were putting together. And uh, they deserve a lot of credit for being persistent because my life was quite full and quite busy at the time. And they were interested in my son, Brian, playing for them. David, I think, became either the first or second all-time leading scorer at Lake Park, and they had some good success, but they were going to do this thing, AAU Nationals, which kind of didn't exist when I was growing up. And uh, Brian was playing probably soccer 4-1 to basketball at that point. He was on national teams. He was, beginning to play internationally. Most of his teammates from that group of soccer guys he played with till he got through to high school wound up being pro players. So they were all over the place. And I was just like, we just don't have the wherewithal to do this. And they kept being persistent. And so we went out and went to a couple practices, and uh, Tom and Ken Rice were formidable about withering down any resistance and making the schedule available. And I had a little bit of that because I had started a thing 4 years earlier called the Downers Grove Nomads.
Okay.
And we just played in this area. And I actually met people who would later become Wolves coaches during that period because our children were all around the same age, much like you're doing with your family.
Yep.
And we worked it out, and sixth grade year, they were a good team, uh, I went to a couple practices, and I had three sons, and they were all busy, so I wasn't planning on doing anything, and uh, they asked me to, could I help out with some of the drills and coach and stuff, do stuff like that. So I said, if and when I'm here, I'll be happy to help whatever I can do. So that's basically how it started. And that team, out of those next 3 years, they went to nationals. The first year, they were in the top 10. We finished in the Elite Eight and got better every year. Eighth grade by that time, we were top four in the country, and uh, it kind of started growing uh, internally and externally. And so that is a year later, that's when they were going to be entering high school the year before that. Uh, Once I saw outside of the state in the Midwest, the national competition, I said, this would be really good for all these kids if they could
Yep.
experience this. And at this point, that this was the big deal. AAU National Super Showcase.
Yep.
That's it. There were no other alternatives. There were, I don't know, less than 24 AAU teams in the whole state, and less as the ages got younger. And so that was the beginning of the Wolves. And as they went to high school, uh, you know, uh, very quickly they asked me to be the head coach, and you know, by the going to nationals that summer and stuff. And that's kind of how it started. And as those kids were getting into high school, and I thought we could compete uh, nationally. I said, okay, I'm kind of in, and Brian was invited at the time to go to IMG to the first national soccer camp coming out of eighth grade, and he'd have to leave home, and a lot of his teammates were doing that or going to Europe to play professionally for clubs. And he said, Dad, I want to stay home, and I want to start playing more basketball. And he had uh, some health issues with juvenile rheumatoid arthritis that for a year it put everything up for grabs if he was even going to be healthy enough to play sports. And through that, and the exercise being good, and him wanting to turn to basketball, uh, that's really became the foundational, that eighth and ninth grade period where we became the Wolves in '99.
What were some names? Give me some names. I'm a junkie.
Yep. Well, the original group, we had Connor Gillen, who wound up being a linebacker at Illinois, Glenbard West, Eric Small, who scored touchdown as state champions for Naperville Central as a true freshman. Kenny Rice, Johnny Rice, David Mikrit, Ryan Sharp. Ryan went on to play at Lewis and was Plainfield's all-time leading scorer, and Brian, obviously. So those were the original suburban kids that were all within miles of each other that we kind of cobbled together. Uh, and then going into eighth grade, Bobby Frazier, Siad Odzik. Um,
Oh,
we were good from day one, fortunately, because we had great kids and great parents. And you know, some of those kids just kept getting better. Unfortunately, they all got bigger. So
yes.
we had a lot of success. And Scott Smith from Highland Park, and went to Notre Dame to play football, and uh, those early years, you could see we always had a good combination of really good basketball players who that was their commitment, and then multi-sport athletes who were just really tough, coachable kids who loved to compete and win.
So when did Wolves kind of take on to like a next level? So it went from kind of, some local tough kids to kind of being more of a national.
Well, I think our results in nationals caught people's attention because after our 15 and under group, we were playing those guys at 16 and 17 and winning.
Yeah.
So it was at that point that we had you know Reebok, Nike, Adidas all approaching us. But I think the turning point was we went to Bob Gibbons, which to me was the greatest tournament in the country back then. It was invite only, 32 teams. You had to have won a major national event to even be invited, and even that wasn't enough. And we got in at U16, and we beat the Atlantic Celtics and Lou Williams and those guys for the championship. And to my knowledge, I think we're the only Illinois team ever to win Gibbons, and it was quite the upset. And it wasn't an upset to us. Uh, we had been, doing that and playing our own age. Uh, uh, that tournament was prepped by 3 years of never playing our own age. We did
Yep.
what we needed to do to qualify. Even during the Illinois state tournaments, we would play 1 or 2 years up, not worry about qualifying. And one of the weird things about that, Aaron, was the year before uh, we had qualified at 17s out of Illinois and 16s, but we didn't play in the 15-year-old tournament, which I kind of did regularly, for that age group, for that particular team. I always wanted to challenge them. And we go down and we beat the number one team in the nation from Carolina, and we were the last seed. And
Wow.
they protested because we didn't play, and we had a whole big thing with Bobby Dodd and AAU and whether we were eligible. And Boo Williams and Bobby Dodd got on the call and said, "So these guys have been playing 4 years with us. They've won everything they've been in. They're playing up. They're willing to play everything, and they come here, and you guys are upset because they beat a team their own age. Get out of here. They're good." Because for 24 hours, we didn't know if we were going to be disqualified
Yeah.
for that tournament or not, which was the precursor. That was down in Memphis to go to Orlando. So it all worked out, and somebody recognized that playing up wasn't to our advantage, but it became our advantage because our kids learned to be a little tougher, play bigger, quicker, stronger, faster their whole time with us. And we were able to do that because of those parents and those kids. They took on challenges, and sometimes we'd look out on the floor and warm ups and say, "We got to be insane for doing this." And but the kids battled and they competed, and I'm very proud of those early days because we were all figuring out together,
Hmm.
and like I said, the success came inside out. They competed against each other, they competed in other sports, and then they competed externally, and they never really worried about who they were playing, and they didn't feel compelled to compare themselves to anybody else. And it was quite a different climate in travel basketball back then.
What, so I know you started with Reebok.
Yep.
What were the Reebok tournaments? Like what, you know,
Yeah. No, we started. That was at the. We were the first Allen Iverson team, in the Midwest, and that came directly from how we did at 15 nationals, and then we got to a tier one team with them uh, because of winning Gibbons. We actually had every shoe company in the stands after we won the championship offering us deals, and Sonny Vaccaro was my guy, and
yeah.
Sonny and I got along well for years, and his lovely wife, and Sonny had a gift that unified, didn't divide.
Yeah.
He told you the truth whether you liked it or not, and you know, uh, a lot of people, and I think history should be much more appreciative for all he did for this instead of he invented this whole thing.
100%.
He took it to a different level that anybody had seen, and he did it at multiple places, and the whole shoe game and the circuit game and the endorsement and fighting for athletes' rights. Uh, I go back 25 years with that when Sonny asked me to be deposed for athletes' rights, and 2 decades ago. I said, "Sonny, whatever you want." I mean, that was the beginning of NIL was 20 years ago. So that was the depositions for the O'Bannon case. And that's how it happened. So Reebok, the biggest tournament in the country was Reebok Big Time because it was Sonny Vaccaro. Sonny ran ABCD camp, the biggest All American camp there was in the country. Those were all the things that within 2 years of us starting, we were linked into all of those things. And because Sonny kept his word and I kept mine, and we were always honest with one another. We always had a great relationship, and it was a wonderful time, and the amount of talent on teams and at his camps, and then at our satellite camps, which I ran all over here and in the Midwest. It was incredible. I mean, you just had NBA player after NBA player on the same teams, and that's who you'd play every weekend. And in those days, we played those guys every weekend. Those were the 2003 Atlantic Celtics, the 2004, Space Indy Heat, the 2005 SoCal All Stars. Like 21 pros on the
Goodness.
team. They had
Yes.
first round picks that were sixth and seventh picks. That's who we played every weekend. And as those boys got to high school, and that was great basketball. I mean, you'd have 5,000 people at Reebok Big Time and a whole Olympic team, and we're we're down there playing, and it was an amazing experience, not only for the kids but for the parents and the coaches. It was high level basketball.
What do you think? So, back, years ago, there was the ABCD camp. There
Yep,
wasn't 10,000 AAU events.
yep.
Would you rather have it go back to how it was, or do you prefer how it's evolved, or a little bit of both?
Well, I just don't think you can go back, in any area. Uh, here's the plus in that there's a lot of things more kids are playing than ever.
Mm-hmm.
Here's what I always applied to our program. What's your why?
Mm-hmm.
What's your why? Okay. Why you have a team? Why are you scheduling? Why are you playing? Why are you acting like this? Why is your team like this?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has different motives for what they're doing it. And, Aaron, I'm a trader by profession.
Yep.
I have nothing against capitalism. Uh, but with this, I just always felt we were always more than basketball. And it was a hobby that was a passion. And that our goal was, it wasn't a business. And that made us unique. And that's why I never felt we competed against anybody off the court. We didn't do this, like you said at the beginning. We didn't do this. Everybody who worked or coached here, got the same deal. You got your salary doubled every year. We didn't pay anybody. Everybody donated their time, their vacation days. The families donated food, made food. We had team parents, and we had everybody here. One of our internal sayings is we don't take selfish people. So if you can't give a kid a ride to practice while you're taking your kid, you probably don't belong here. If you want to talk to me about your kid, that's probably not going to happen. You know, you're definitely not going to talk about anybody else's child.
Yep.
And so we had a culture of inclusiveness, and that really started out of, yeah, I didn't golf, hunt, or fish, but uh, uh, growing up really beyond poverty on the west side of Chicago with my own family, who were first generation immigrants. Uh, I was the kid who needed a ride or someone to give me a sandwich, or I needed scholarships to go to grammar school, high school, and college. And I think when you're blessed, you're supposed to give back, and you're supposed to give back more than you got. And that's what we've tried to do. And I'm just eternally blessed for all those people who took a chance on us. And this has never been about me. This is, you text me a very good thing. How'd you get me to do it? You asked, right? Uh, I never wanted to make it about me, but I wanted it to be successful in its mission. And that was to be always more than about basketball, and to put hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of kids into college, and to put kids who had never had a college degree or never been on an airplane and all those things. Uh, you know, uh, this was a bad business model, and I'm a pretty good businessman, but it's worked for a long time. So I don't think this can go back and be done again.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I think it was very unique, and that we tried to help as many people as we can. And I think the quality of basketball and the players was much better at that particular time. The teams, because kids wanted to play with the best players and against the best players. And everything has been diluted and watered down. And once it becomes about money, which what all of youth sports is,
Yep.
it stays about money. And I get that. Right. And I applaud the guys that have done that and done that well. And but again, how are you doing it and why? And so we've just I think we're the wolves, but I think we've been a lone wolf in our approach.
I
And
agree.
we're all proud of that. And I'm very thankful that other people believed in that same vision. Because if we weren't aligned, I could not have done this one day by myself. One day, not one.
Where did your sons go to high school?
Downers Grove South.
Oh, I play them tonight.
There you go.
Look,
Congratulations. Good luck.
yeah, we'll see what happens. We'll see what
Good
happens.
luck. Yeah. No,
Good.
they had great experiences. My two oldest sons got to play together, got to go down state every year and
That's awesome.
play against some great teams and have great careers. And my youngest son, Michael, was my 6'5" golfer there. So,
Okay.
we still live in Downers Grove and the community has been great to us. And,
Yeah.
it was not a big thing, basketball in DuPage County when I moved here. People kind of looked at you strange, like, why were you doing the nomads to the Wolves? It was not a fertile area for basketball
Yeah.
success. And now
Um,
it is.
what do I have a question since you brought up your sons. When they played, were you a crazy dad or a quiet dad?
I think it depends on who was sitting next to me on that particular day.
That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
Uh, I tried to do what I could, and obviously, uh, at sometimes I needed to go and sit up at the top of the gym by myself. I will say, never got a tee, and they knew not to look in the stands. I wasn't
Yeah.
going to coach them from the stands, but it didn't mean I was as stoic in my emotions as I am today back when they were playing.
Yeah. I was always curious about that.
Yep.
I've learned from over the years watching so many dads do it the wrong way.
Hmm.
Um, the one dad that I kind of copy is I'm close with Danny Wolf's family,
Yep.
and his dad, not a word. You wouldn't. Joe and
Yep.
Tina would just sit there and watch. I took this from them. Anytime I go watch Jonah play anything, I always get down on one knee and tell my son, I love you and I love watching you play. Um, we never had the post game car rides. I mean, first of all, he's 7. He probably doesn't care. But
Yep.
second, nobody after a day of work wants to talk about it. Um, so I always wondered, I knew your sons were really good basketball players. So I was like, I wonder if Coach Mullins used to yell and scream.
Yeah. Well, I coached them as well. So,
Yeah,
they were all benched by me at whether it was soccer and basketball at
yeah,
various times. And I did yell for a living in the pits for a long time. So I had that in me. But I think time and what I promised them and promised myself, uh, was the same, is that I'm never going to do anything to embarrass you or our family.
mm,
And that meant, walking away at times. The West Side Irish kid in me didn't want to walk away. But,
yeah.
as I got younger, it became a little easier and became a good habit to follow. But yeah, I would say it took a little longer coaching than it did being the dad in the stands. I was better at being the dad in the stands than uh, my competitiveness was. I think fairly recognizable when I was coaching.
You played at St. Mary, Minnesota.
Yep.
Tell me about it. I couldn't find anything but that you played there. I mean, coach, I
Yep.
I dug so deep, I could not find any stats or anything.
Yep. Yep. Well, I had a wonderful opportunity. Coach Costello actually just passed away last week, who was my coach who recruited me there. He's a Brother Rice Catholic League guy. And I had my first knee surgery when I was in seventh grade. which is quite unusual. And back
Uh,
then, uh, and I was, you know, pretty good neighborhood kid in all sports. And my brother, was playing football at Northwestern. So, we have some good athletic genes in our family. And then at Fenwick, I had to have another surgery. And I couldn't play. I wasn't cleared by insurance to play football. And I needed a scholarship to go to college and played with some great players. Jeff Carpenter, was the top point guard in the country. Him and John
yep.
Luke at Neil Bresnahan, Captain Illinois, still holds a Proviso West rebounding record, drafted by Golden State. They were my teammates. And so, we played park ball, we played pickup ball, we played outside Fifth Avenue in Maywood and up on Harlem and Roosevelt by Brez's house and Margate Park and we did all that and I had I poured everything into basketball because my knees weren't going to allow me to play football back then. And then we had very good teams there. We because of those guys, and I had a choice. And where we lived wasn't great. UIC was Division I. Ed McQuillan offered me a scholarship there. West Point offered me a scholarship, and I wanted to go play for as long as I could play, which I knew wasn't going to be long because my knees were shot. I wound up having surgery again in college, and it all worked out. So, I started there as a freshman the year before. St. Mary's probably had 70% Chicago kids. They were an NAIA school. So it was a full scholarship, which is what I was looking for. But the biggest thing I was looking for was to get out of the West Side and get out of Chicago.
Yep.
It was mental health, safety health, and I had a lot of interesting friends back then. And we needed to kind of go there, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. I scored scored some points, got a lot of rebounds. We went to the national tournament within 2 years after when we got there, primarily because we had a lot of Chicago guys. Marvin Tunstall from Leo, school's all-time leading scorer. Emmett McGovern transferred from DePaul, good friend of mine. Marvin passed away a few years ago. Terry Cullen from Loyola. So we turned the program around, and it was very good basketball, and there were days I could walk and there was days I couldn't. And so it was a great experience with a great group of guys, and I'm forever grateful for the opportunity to go there. But at the time, UAC, I went down on the visit, and they didn't have dorms. People can remember they didn't have the arena. First year Division I, and Coach McQuillan could, they gave you a stipend to live at home because there was no housing.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And that was part of your scholarship. And a good friend of mine wound up going to Baylor. Tommy Norris was on Oak Park's team that went downstate. And he wound up going the following year. But, really, I needed to get out of Chicago. That's why I didn't go to UIC. So I was it'd be a shock to some kids and parents, but not my own. But sometimes go to the place that fits you best instead of the level that you think's the highest at the time. And uh, if you see any old pictures from Fenwick, I went from one of those old braces that weighed like 12 pounds on your leg. I never played a game after I was 12 years old without a giant brace on.
Really.
Yeah, so it's what I
What was
had.
wrong? What was wrong with your knee?
I had a complete reconstruction. I had a dislocated. I tore the ACL, tore the meniscus, had the meniscus removed, and I played on cortisone shots pretty much for the rest of my career. So that didn't do a whole lot of good for the rest of my life after basketball either.
Yeah.
But that was medicine back then.
Something you said, you just said about getting kids to the right school.
Yep.
And that's the other reason I idolize you, not to blow up your head, that you got Ryan Cohn to go to Wash U
Yep.
was one of my probably all-time favorite things because, I've known Ryan, his dad's my best friend. I've known Ryan since he was 7. He's like my little guy's big brother. They FaceTime. Um, he could have went to he is such a great example of what I want for children. No offense to like Easterns and Northerns and that, but if my son's not going to the NBA, I would jump over the world for him to go to University of Chicago, Wash U, NYU, right? My
100%.
favorite, my favorite thing, so we go to, we'll go once or twice a year to watch Rye play. And we were, I forgot which game we went to, but I was talking to Ryan and he told me in the UAA, they usually have dinner with the other team.
Hmm.
And I was talking to some D1 players about it, and they're like, oh, I would never want to do that. And for me, I'm like, oh my God, the networking. Oh
Yeah.
my God. Like, I'm going to graduate college with a Rolodex, right?
Yep.
Of guys and their parents and their family that I can connect with, right? So I've always been so thankful that you steered Ryan the right way and that he listened. Because first he's having the time of his life.
Yep.
He's going to have a degree that is platinum. So that was one thing I always tell people, these kids that, are potential shoe kids. I said there's some programs that push you towards places that make them look good so they can
Mhm.
post. I said that Mike Mullins pushed Ryan to go to a high academic D3 school. I go, that's all I need to know. I don't know what else you want. Uh,
Hmm.
because it would have looked sexier posting Northern Illinois. It would have been sexier posting a low to mid D1,
Yep.
but nothing sexier than getting a degree from Wash U.
Yep.
So
Well,
I always like I tell Chad all the time of like how thankful I am that Ryan listened and um
well, he's got a wonderful set of parents, and you got a wonderful set of friends because Ryan and that's kind of our three words. Always, always more, always more than basketball. And you could put always more than, and that's the first one is basketball. If you're doing this just for basketball, I'm probably the wrong person. Yet we've had multiple players play at the very highest level of basketball, from USA teams to Olympic teams, won world championships, multiple Final Fours,
yep.
lottery picks, teenagers to college players of the years. They're the exception.
You know who my favorite
Ryan and players like Ryan are also the exception.
you know who my
They
favorite
are old
Wolves
souls who
player
are
is?
going to be successful in life. And the sport is just a key to open doors to bigger platforms for them.
100%. It's a vehicle.
Yeah.
Uh, you know who my favorite Wolves player is of all time?
Nope.
You'll never guess. It's not Evan Turner.
Okay.
Jason Randall.
Yeah. He's up there.
He was so good at Rock Island.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Oh, he
Well,
was he was unbelievable.
well, he's one of mine. He's the only kid I ever coached that I'm still believe that I will have to vote for him someday for a national office, including and up to being the president of the United States.
He graduated from Stanford, right?
He was valedictorian from Rock Island. Jason came 3 hours each way to practice, never missed a practice, and we used to practice 3 days a week. Straight A student, graduated from Stanford in 3 years,
Yeah.
got his NBA in 4 years, was their leading scorer as a freshman at Stanford, took him to the NCAA tournament as a junior, played in the NBA, played with Real Madrid in the EuroLeague. He's still playing now today. Played for USA multiple times, and he's one of the most successful, intelligent young men I've ever coached. And it's really just a privilege. Willie and Gwen and his parents. You don't have to look far. When you evaluate kids,
Hmm.
evaluate their parents. Evaluate their parents, and we passed on a lot of really good basketball players because their parents probably wouldn't be happy with us.
God. I get goosebumps. That's so. Pat Fitzgerald used to tell me that he doesn't recruit kids, he recruits parents
Yep.
because he can always coach up the kid, but doesn't want to have cancers.
Yeah. Well, the kids with you for 2, 3 hour practices for as much. And our season is so small, we're not a high school. Uh, if they're coaching from the stands to what they get told in the car to everything at home, we can't win that. It shouldn't be a war. And we're not for everyone, and we were never built for everybody.
God, I love it. Why did you never go into college coaching?
I had a great job. I was offered many times,
I
and
can
and and and
imagine.
I had some long segues into it, but uh, I started my own company in my 30s, and Coach Weber's famous quote when that question was asked to him when he was at Illinois, he said, you know, uh, uh, you know, he's already got a better job than assistant coach, so I don't think we're going to get him.
He wasn't lying.
But I did coach college 1.5 seasons
Where
when
at?
I got out of college. North Central College in Naperville.
Oh.
My high school coach became the head coach there, Ed Galvin,
Mhm.
and the athletic director. And he's a lot of reason why the Wolves exist, along with a park district director in the city called Don Burnett from Emmett Playground on Madison and Central. Probably two of the most influential men in my life. Uh, Not related to me, didn't know me, but believed in me and gave me options that I would not have had in life through my own family or friends at the time. And Ed got me to Fenwick after a serious knee surgery. And it was Fenwick, Pats, or Weber at the time. And Coach Burnett founded the Inner City Sports Hall of Fame. Uh, they both shared in common. They were both ex-Marines, and I needed an ex-Marine in my life.
Yeah.
I was a wild colonial boy at times, and they looked out for me when others didn't. And they gave me a platform, uh, asking nothing in return. And they did that for so many people, not just me. But they are really the founders of the Wolves culture. Those were men who had their own families, their own 9 to 5, their own six. Ed's a Hall of Famer and like 3 or 4 Hall of Fames. Don was the guy played semi-pro football into his 40s, and he was killed by gang fire at Pickard Playground on the west side. Uh, he bought me my first basketball. He took me to my first Cub game. Uh, they did for me what others couldn't, and I've never ever forgotten that. And I'm truly blessed to have both those men in my life.
Okay, here's a loaded question with three different answers. Give me a your most memorable basketball story as a dad.
As a dad,
Hmm.
I would say the night Brendan was a senior and Brian was a sophomore, and Downer South was not a basketball household name at the point, and West Aurora was undefeated and #1 in the nation with 9 Division I players, and we beat them. And Gordy, we had practiced all year to beat them in our own house because I figured that's who it was going to beat them. Kind of like when I played, we had to beat Proviso East uh, uh, when we joined the IHSA as a senior. But uh, the odds of that was one of the greatest upsets I thought, in the last 20, 30 years. And uh, we beat them good. And Gordy always said, I never thought a sophomore could handle our press, but, you know, PJ Marion and Sarah Soley and Sean Pruitt and Damian Mason, the player of the year.
Yep.
And Brendan had 33 or 35 because we kind of helped get them open. And the rest of those kids played their ass off. But as a father for that day, all those times going to the gym and coming up and facing big odds and no one thinks you're going to win. And I had Guys from the city call me. Did that score right? You really beat West? Yeah. But everything they did together
Yeah.
in high school was amazing. Going downstate, Brent that year after that, they wound up winning. Brendan hit game winners in three straight games to go downstate, and uh, uh, we lost to a very good TF team down there, and then Brian's team went to the Supers again the next year, and then came in the Final Four the year after that. To do it 3 years in a row, and it was the three greatest years at Downer South basketball history. And all those kids played on those nomad teams, and we had football players, we had baseball players. Uh, it was just community pride. It's why playing for your high school and your community is so much more important. It is a lifetime of memories, and I don't regret any of that. That's a part I wish that some people have kept, but more and more kids leave now, and they chase, I think, false gold elsewhere. If you're good, they'll find you,
Yep.
and if you make an impact on your high school, uh, you'll love going back there the rest of your life. It's a bond unlike anything else. And I'm glad both my kids are in the South Hall of Fame because of that.
Um, so give me your most memorable moment as a player.
Mm. Kind of similar to theirs. Uh, uh, there's actually two, and one is actually a little different than the other. My senior year, we were the first year the Catholic League was in the IHSA, and we won our regional, and we were supposed to play Oak Park in a rematch. First time ever Oak Park and Fenwick played each other was my senior year, and we lost by three, and we were all good friends and bitter enemies the same night. But it was 4,000 people. It was great, and we were supposed to get this rematch because we were both ranked. We had beaten Morgan Park with Levi Cobb, handily, and we lost to Phillips in the mayor's tournament, which was bigger than Proviso West back then. And Phillips wound up being undefeated state champs. For some reason, the papers LT only, I think, had one loss, and they had Durkee Robinson and Dave Carroll, and we got to play them in the sectional championships, or the sectional first game of the sectional, and we beat them. And that was a lot of fun just because everybody knew each other, same thing, you know what I mean? And we played Proviso in the championship a couple nights later, and they beat us, went downstate. So those were great memories from high school. And, I just had my high school reunion a couple months ago. So, we got to talk about that. Probably the second basketball memory was I got to play one-on-one against somebody. And this is a Merck story for tens and tens, maybe $100,000 one-on-one in a day at Elmwood Park Civil Center. That was all the Merck traders and brokers when I was working there in the summer came up with the idea that we should play one-on-one. And the other guy was a guy who played at Cal, and he was a North Shore guy, about 6'6", and he was playing in college, and I was just getting out of high school and going to college. And it went from a harmless, my guy can beat your guy, uh,
Yeah.
to okay, I heard there's a game. Okay, to they wound up getting a Big Ten ref, renting the Elmwood Park Civic Center. Hundreds. My friends were betting on the game. Everybody at the Merc who didn't even know they had. I had friends' dads who put money on the game, and there
That's
was no three
awesome.
point line back then. You remember? So
Yep.
we played one-on-one to 21, and it's the most money I ever saw. And I couldn't afford to bet. I didn't have any money. I was making $120, I think, $110 a week, trying to save up money, for college.
Yep.
And I got a generous tip from the guys who put the game together for winning, and that carried me for not only one school year but a couple schools. I was able to buy my dad a car, and that was the
Awesome.
first new car my dad had.
That's awesome. That's an
Yeah,
awesome
so
story.
that's probably my personal, because boy, we had a lot of fun
Man,
that night, me and my friends.
I bet. I bet.
on Rush Street.
Awesome. That's awesome.
So those are two different stories of basketball. And I don't think I've told that story publicly to anybody, but a few people know about it. But it's one of the there are a lot of little stories at the Merc like that, and that was one I'm happy to share.
Now maybe for my favorite one, what's your favorite coaching story?
Mhm. It's a great question. I would say it's not a story. It's kind of the story.
Okay.
It's the totality of I think we've done more good than harm, and I think we've done it consistently the same way. And it's not my coaching. It's all the coaches we've had and the friends that from Bob Frazier, Hall of Fame coach,
Yep.
first guy, from Ken Rice, Tom Mickert, just fine gentlemen, Carl Maniscalco,
Mm,
multiple Hall of Famer, Kenny
yep.
Griswold, Hall of Famer, Jeff Carpenter, Hall of Famer, uh, to all the way up until the current coaches, with Mike Reynolds, Hall of Famer, Aaron Dwyer, soon to be the friends, Gene Highcamp, Tommy Kleinschmidt, Tommy Levatino, Hall of Fame coaches.
Yep.
I'm not. They are. They all wanted to be associated in some way with personal and friendship relationships with the Wolves. And I learned on the West Side that my life would be judged by the quality of people I surrounded myself with.
Yep.
And I had choices to go either way a lot of times. And people like that made my life better, which in turn made my family's life better. So I think that's, you know, whatever part I've played in providing a platform, those people gave me and my family a life and a culture that was foreign to all of us. And it's through basketball. Those are things that I wouldn't have had without doing this. That's kind of my favorite coaches. Coach Maniscalco and I talked about this today. Could you ever imagine doing this and thinking you were going to do this for almost 30 years? No. Would you trade 1 second of it? No. And it took a lot of sacrifice by everybody, by our own families, our children who didn't do this, right?
Mhm.
So I think that's my favorite story is that uh, we were wrong. We admitted we were wrong. We tried to do better. Uh, Things we found we did well, we tried to do better in those too, and we were consistent. And uh, hopefully, it's a good legacy that somebody else, maybe like you, I looked to two men outside my family and said, you know, I'm either going to be an idiot from the city or I'm going to try to clean things up and try to do something for someone besides myself. And all those people who did it showed me how to do that. So I'm grateful for that.
That's good. That's you do. You guys have a nice little mafia. I love all those guys. Everyone that you
Yep.
mentioned, man, and they're great coaches. I actually texted Kleinschmidt. He didn't reply, which I wasn't shocked. I said, hey, can you do me a favor and move back down to 3A? Because I don't know what we're gonna do with them. But again, everyone you mentioned, though, not only are they great guys, but they're great basketball minds.
Yep.
And they have no, they want to deliver it to children.
Yep.
They want to, give everything. And like you said, man, basketball is the best vehicle to relationship building.
Yeah. Well, they are all examples and fortunately for me of servant leadership,
Mm,
and they taught me how to be a better leader, which taught me to be a better man
yep.
and taught me to, from Bob Frazier on, every coach that I've had with me, has taught me something I didn't know. And as long as I stayed teachable, I got a chance of not being ignorant. But
Yeah,
the
love
games have
that.
kind of come and gone. We've won everything there is to win in AAU,
Yep.
everything at every level, and our players have achieved all that. That's all wonderful. But that those players are still in touch with me, or Paul, or are successful men,
Mhm.
and sometimes their backstories, mine pales in comparison of where
Yep.
they came from to get to where they are.
Yep.
And I'm not talking about just the ones who made the NBA or lottery. Those guys are phenomenal, and I don't think you can be less than in any part of your life to reach something that is so difficult to reach. Which is, we've had multiple players. We got three guys in the NBA right now, two who went as teenagers, and Drew Pearson.
Mm.
But the Ryan Cohens and the Matt Collins who played with Evan Turner and Sammy, who was just one of the greatest success stories I've seen. And he's a district supervisor for special ed. And it really is the chance to have those relationships and meet parents like your friends, the Cohens, and Barrett Benson's family and Larry Whitaker and Everett Stevens and David Cohn's family and the Taphorns and Willie and Gwen Randall, and it goes on and on. We've had as good a parents as we've had players, and that's, believe me, I wouldn't have had the patience to do it any other way.
I feel that. I feel that one. Coach, to wrap up, in 300 years, when you go upstairs to the basketball gods in 300 years, how do you want Coach Mullins to be remembered?
That I did the best I could every day.
Mm. I like it. You want to elaborate at all?
Yeah, I think that this was never a plan. You know,
Hmm.
I think it was truly a gift. That it was something I was asked to do by people I didn't know well and became friends with, and it turned into a life's vocation, not work. Uh, and it's introduced myself and my family, and this little ball has taken us all over the world,
Yeah,
not just court to court. And the people that we've met are lifelong friends, and that is really a gift that I'm just really really grateful to have the opportunity to do it, and I'm really grateful to all the people who trusted us with their children, and all the families who sacrificed their dads to coach with us, their vacation times. A lot of the teachers, they were gone. The live period in July when I started this was the whole month.
I remember.
We were on the road. We played 5 tournaments in July.
Yep.
We flew from Florida to California to New York to Jersey in 1 July to play. We went, playing the hunting the biggest teams because, and that we had success on the court is tremendous. But to have the success and the friendship still be here today, years later, that's amazing to me. I had multiple partnerships in my business life, and they all did well, but you kind of drift away. Times change and
Yep.
people are different ages and stuff. This has kind of never drifted away. It's been a constant, and sports is just a metaphor for life. It's why I got my children involved with it. It's what I was taught. Uh, how you do anything is how you should do everything, and don't take shortcuts. And so when I 300 years and meet my maker or whatever, you know, I hope I gave more than I got.
You were awesome. I am very grateful for your time. Um, You have no idea. And I follow you. Like I genuinely in my head think to myself, like, what would Coach Mullins do? A lot because you are in a business where parents try to get involved and you do not allow it. And Chad Cohn will tell you, I always start off man up meetings with, I'm the coach, you're the parent. I don't want to hear shit. I'm not going to tell you about your job. Please do not tell me about mine. Right. And I haven't found a lot of guys like that. And that's why I kind of gravitated towards you.
Well, there's a great man who, through basketball, I got to meet who was very, very close with Carl Maniscalco, Dick Versace.
Hmm.
Carl and I were bitter rivals in high school. Gordon Tech they were number one in the nation,
Yep.
Fenwick, and we played them on NBC TV on Saturday game of the week and all that stuff. And Dick did every job there is to do in basketball and did them well. He won everywhere he went. Gordon Tech, Bradley, JUCO, uh, NBA world champion with the Pistons, general manager, started the Grizzlies franchise.
Yep.
And Carl had always said, Dick, when he was done with basketball, he was done. And then Carl was coaching with me and Sammy was playing. And Dick started to come to our practices. And I'm like, this is a legend
Yeah.
that's sitting there. And he'd come to all our practices and he'd talk and we'd go to Tofano's
Yep.
and have something to eat. And Dick's Dick later on, outside of the basketball, was what you just said. He used to come to hear my parents talk at the beginning of the year when we kind of set our boundaries. There was no rule book, but these are our boundaries.
Yep.
And he's the one who said, this should never change. How you do this is the way it should be done.
Yep.
And to hear that from someone who's in every accomplished Hall of Fame, one of the most intelligent people. I mean, his brother's a Medal of Honor winner. His mother wrote The Flying Nun. I mean, just an incredibly bright family. Uh, you know, that was an amazing goal to try to keep that bar raised for what he saw in us when, we're kind of flying, hoping things work out. And it's a great memory that Carl and I shared this morning.
Well, Coach, I want to say thank you for your time. I hope that you are still doing the Wolves when my son is older so he can come get yelled at and because he loves that shit. He absolutely loves it because he's been taught that when a coach yells at you, that means they love you.
Mm-hmm.
So he'll piss you off because he smiles because he loves it so much. But thank you for your time. I really, really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you sharing your narrative.
Well, thank you for inviting me on, and keep doing what you're doing, and good luck tonight against the Mustangs. And tell Jonah, I got a 4-year-old grandson that's coming up, and our goal is that hopefully he can play up with Jonah someday.
Yes, for sure. All right, my
Happy
son.
Thanksgiving to you and yours.
Yes. Happy Thanksgiving to you and your family as well.
All righty. God bless.
Bye bye.